Lately, I've been craving some World War II games, so I figured why not replay the one that started my whole gaming hobby. Now surely, when you see Medal of Honor Allied Assault, the first level that comes to mind has to be the D-Day. Or maybe it's the one where you sneak into a Nazi base in Norway and sabotage the U-boat. Or perhaps the one where you steal a King Tiger. What about the Return to Fort Schmerzen? But maybe your first association is the main menu and the iconic Michael Giacchino soundtrack. See, everyone I asked had a different thing in mind. This game has such a great selection of fantastic and memorable missions that it's difficult for one to stand out. When I was younger, my favorite mission was probably Omaha Beach, but back then I was like 6 years old, barely knew a word of English, and this one seemed the most straightforward and also the most flashy and set-piecey. But as I got older, I started to like the U-boat level more and more. Now I actually knew that I could do most of this level with the officer disguise. When I first found out this was possible, my mind was blown, walking around the level that I knew by heart at this point, but completing it in a totally different manner. This one is also usually discussed online when someone brings up Allied Assault. It offers a nice change of pace from the previous action-packed mission in Northern Africa. And Allied Assault does this a lot. One mission will be all out guns blazing, and the next one will be more calm and stealthy. It has a great variety, and just when you think it's starting to get repetitive, the game changes it up at the right times. The premise is fairly simple. The player takes the role of Lieutenant Mike Powell, who is an OSS operative and is usually tasked with infiltrating and destroying targets of high value.
Lieutenant Powell, I'm Colonel Hargrove from the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS. Our branch specializes in covert operations, usually deep behind enemy lines. Espionage, sabotage, infiltration. That's the business we're in, Lieutenant.
Apart from a few missions, the game is primarily focused on authentic advanced German weapons, such as the U-boat, the Nebelwerfer, the mighty King Tiger, and the Sturmgewehr 44, the first assault rifle. The structure of these missions is also fairly straightforward. At first you infiltrate, complete your main objective and then get out. But how you complete these objectives is spiced up with a great variety of level design and stealth versus action-packed sequences. It also helps that each mission takes place in a wildly different environment. From the sandy towns of North Africa, underground bunkers and secret bases, the Normandy's lush and green bocage, to the cozy and snowy town in Germany. Many levels also borrow heavily from Steven Spielberg's legendary Saving Private Ryan. Some recreate the environments, and some also follow the sequences from the movie. This should come as no surprise, as Steven Spielberg is actually the writer and more likely than not also had a big director role in the development. Same as with the original 1999 Medal of Honor. But Spielberg's influence is not only seen in the environments themselves, but also the game's iconic soundtrack. Lieutenant Powell's adventures are usually accompanied by a fantastic orchestral original score, composed by Michael Giacchino. The tracks reminded me heavily of Spielberg's classics such as Indiana Jones, Catch Me If You Can, and so on. The music is wondrous when exploring, intense when stealthy, and badass when in action. It accompanies players' actions perfectly. There is also a neat Easter egg. If the player interacts with the instruments in one of these Siegfried Line levels, Powell will play the original Medal of Honor main theme. Of course, not all praise goes to Spielberg. Allied Assault was developed by 2015 Inc., with Vince Zampella and Jason West at the helm. Sound familiar? Mr. West and Zampella left EA as soon as the game released, as they were dissatisfied with 2015's management at the time. They created Infinity Ward under Activision's banner, proceeded to develop codename Medal of Honor Killer, which we now know as Call of Duty. But that's a story for a different video. Let's go back to Allied Assault. While the game was met with critical acclaim, sold incredibly well, and to this day is regarded as one of the staples of first-person shooters, it's not without fault. The player is unable to lean left and right in single-player mode, but the feature is present in the multiplayer. This would have been very welcome, as most gunfights take place in and around buildings with plenty of corners to peek from. While shooting, the player is also unable to aim down the sight, and melee works only with a pistol equipped and not with the rifles, though both of these issues were addressed in the two expansions. Allied Assault also has an infamous difficulty spike toward the middle of the game, in the well-known Sniper Town level. To this day, I'm not sure what to think of this one. Lieutenant Powell has to regroup with a tank squad trapped in the town, and then proceed to capture the King Tiger. This is either the best sniper level or the worst one. I'll let you decide. Visibility is very poor due to heavy fog, which means it's very difficult to spot enemies. Also, many German snipers are hidden on the rooftops and in tiny cracks in buildings. What really doesn't help is the fact that enemies are able to spot Lieutenant Powell with ease, and also the trees and bushes which block the player's view, while AI can see through just fine. Despite these issues and having to retry multiple times, the level provided a significant yet enjoyable challenge. And besides, getting to man a King Tiger more than makes up for it, even though the controls for the tank are pretty wonky by today's standards. And no, that's not a Netflix thing, it's this thing. Needless to say, what impressed me the most in the tank missions was the building destruction when shooting the tank's cannon. Apparently the game did have a thriving online community, with a pretty competitive esports scene. I never played the online portion though, so unfortunately I got nothing to add here. When I decided to replay Allied Assault, I opted not to use the Origin version. Instead, I used my physical copy, but due to the fact that Secure ROM doesn't work with Windows 10, I had to use a cracked executable. And just to save you some trouble if you do decide to install this one yourself, stick with the Origin version. That one works flawlessly. Also, make sure to check out PCGamingWiki.com for tips on how to tweak the game for today's standards. When it comes to the more technical side, Allied Assault's graphics were pretty great at the time, and due to distinct and consistent art style, hold up well even today. More or less. The character models are incredibly detailed. The uniforms are spot on, and for the most part look even better than a year-and-a-half younger Call of Duty. Enemies will also react realistically to limb damage. The AI is no joke either. Enemies will flank the player if not paying attention, and generally behave quite aggressively. They will also use grenades and even throw them back at the player. In the same vein as the game's soundtrack, weapon, vehicle and environmental sounds are also of high quality and very realistic. Happy to report the M1 Garand ping is as satisfying as ever. Allied Assault received 2 expansion packs after the release. Spearhead, which follows the events of British paratroopers in the Normandy, US Army in the Ardennes, and the Soviet March in Berlin.
This assault has been a complete mess!
Breakthrough follows the Battle of Kasserine Pass, once again in North Africa, Battle of Monte Cassino, and the bloody landings at Anzio in Italy. Both expansion packs were received well, but not to universal acclaim as the base game. We'll take a look at both of these in a future video. As you might have guessed by this point, I really like Allied Assault. Not only because it's good, but it's also the very first video game I ever played. For my 6th birthday, I got my very own PC. Considering we weren't exactly well off at the time, looking back on it makes me appreciate the fact even more. On the PC there were 2 video games, Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit and Medal of Honor Allied Assault. And let's just say that for a 6-year-old me, a King Tiger was more fun than a Lamborghini. These games defined my childhood, and even though I haven't played this game in years, it all came back to me during this playthrough. Medal of Honor Allied Assault holds a nostalgic and a sentimental value for a lot of us. For everyone else though, I welcome you to experience the game that helped shape the first-person shooter genre as we know it today. This little project was incredibly fun for me. I loved editing and putting together this video, so I'm definitely going to make some more. As I'm still in the mood for some World War II games, the next video will be about Call of Duty 3, which I never actually played before. If you'd like to stick around, please click the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay in touch. Thank you guys for watching.